Hello and welcome to LSC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool beat Bournemouth away from home by a whopping 4-0 yesterday. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to bring this video to you sooner, but unfortunately I wasn't actually able to watch the match yesterday, and just for you guys, I have got up bright and early this morning, watched the full 90 minutes after it came out on the Liverpool website at midnight, and I am now here to at last talk about what was, in the end, a pretty impressive victory for Liverpool, which would now, with the benefit of the hindsight on Sunday morning, we all know, catapulted us to the top of the Premier League, also thanks to a fantastic 2-0 victory from Chelsea yesterday evening. But we'll park all that for now and just talk about the Reds and how good they are. And the answer is pretty good. I think yesterday was probably, if not necessarily maybe the best performance so far this season, certainly the most fluid Liverpool have looked throughout a 90-minute spell. You know, all the way through the game, the ball just moved through the team effortlessly. It really felt like there was a plan to make sure no part of the team looked isolated. There was never a point where we were thinking, who's the link player to link up, say, the midfield and the attack here? There was always someone in there to make sure the ball would just move from goalie to defence to the midfield two to that front three, and then all the way up to Salah at the other end of the pitch. And every single time it just felt so fluid. It felt natural. It felt like this was the kind of formation that Liverpool have been working on the training ground all the way through this season so far, and that is a fantastic thing to see, because something we've been saying all the way through the season is Liverpool are great, Liverpool are winning games. Won't it be amazing when we actually click and when the team actually starts to function as a unit, as it did towards the end of last season? And it finally feels like the team is starting to click, like everything is starting to fall into place as Jurgen Klopp planned it. And it's no surprise that new signings are coming in and playing a part in that. It's no surprise that the players he brought in, like Fabinho, like Keita and Shaqiri as well, and of course Alisson Becker, are all crucial to making sure that this side clicks as the manager wants it to. But I'll come on to more of those individual performances later. In terms of an away performance, it was also absolutely fantastic in terms of how Liverpool managed the game. You know, there were plenty of people saying it was a more even game than the scoreline said, and Bournemouth maybe deserved a bit more out of it than a 4-0 loss and stuff like that. But to be honest, I think Liverpool managed the game from minute one, so Bournemouth were never actually able to get anything out of it. I think defensively as well, and this is where the idea of it being a good away performance comes in. I think when we needed to actually just get numbers back and shut Bournemouth out, we did it incredibly well. Players like Shaqiri and Naby Keita, whose primary role throughout the game was to attack and get the best out of players like Firmino and Salah. When Bournemouth were putting on sustained periods of pressure, they actually got back and they helped out the fullbacks, and essentially, and it sounds a bit Manchester United to say this, but formed a back six where both of those wingers drop back and are actually level with the rest of their defence. And like I said, that sounds a bit Man United, but sometimes away from home, just when the opposition is getting a little bit of wind in their sails and feeling like they can put some momentum together, it's important to just kind of see that 5-minute spell out. And there were a couple of those spells in the game, I think, right at the end of the first half, and at some point around maybe midway through the second half, or even the first 5 minutes before Mo Salah gets his second goal. Bournemouth did look like they kind of felt they could get something out of the game and they could at least score a goal, and it was so important that Liverpool made sure they never really got anywhere with that desire. And like I said, especially with a player like James Milner playing right back, I think it is important, as good as Milner is, that Shaqiri actually took the responsibility upon himself to say, you know what, I'm just going to give him a little bit of a hand here and make sure that he doesn't get exposed, because Bournemouth will have seen that lineup and thought, as good as Milner is, he's a midfielder, and him playing at right back is a potential weakness, and they might have targeted him had Xherdan Shaqiri not helped him out. So it was a fantastic performance in that respect as well. And also, I think in terms of just the personnel Klopp got on the pitch, and that's kind of what I mean when I talk about how he's finally starting to draft in all of his summer signings that he brought in with a view to kind of recreating the team and changing the style we play to try and get better results in this Premier League season. I think the variety of players was so good, because it never felt like we were a one-trick pony. It never felt like we were always trying to attack in the same way. You sometimes had Naby Keita trying to go direct. Sometimes you had Firmino looking for the cute little passes on the ground. Sometimes you had Shaqiri going for chip passes over the defence. And sometimes you had Mo Salah just trying to run at them and get at the goal. And I think that's so important, because it becomes impossible to deal with, especially given that also that three players of Keita, Firmino and Shaqiri, who essentially formed an attacking three behind Mo Salah, none of them ever really had a defined position. I think they had loose positions of Keita on the left, Firmino down the middle and Shaqiri down the right, but it was impossible to ever really predict where either of them was going to show up, because all of them were capable of playing any number of those roles. all of them were also capable of getting a little bit further forward and even helping out in the midfield with Wijnaldum and Fabinho as well. And that just became so difficult for Bournemouth to defend against, because they could never predict what player was going to show up when. And with all those players offering something totally different in terms of the attacking effort, it's incredibly important to try and work out what player it is, because otherwise you never know what they're going to do. And I think it's fantastic that this Liverpool side is finally becoming an unpredictable force going forward again. So of course I'm going to have a word or two on the player that absolutely everybody is talking about after that game. I am of course talking about Mohamed Salah, who got a hat-trick in the game and also put in my opinion, the complete centre-forwards performance. He did absolutely everything brilliantly, and that was crucial to Liverpool being impossible for Bournemouth's defence to deal with, and specifically Steve Cook having an absolute shocker against Mohamed Salah. He tried absolutely everything to deal with Salah. He tried, raking down his heels. He tried muscling him off the ball. He tried, kicking it into his own net before Mohamed Salah could get the chance. None of it worked. He just could not deal with Liverpool's little Egyptian Lionel Messi today. I mean, yesterday. I forget that I'm doing the video the day after because, of course, I watched it this morning. But Mo Salah was just on another level to any other player on the pitch yesterday. And like I said, it was just a complete centre-forwards performance. He did so many things brilliantly. He was always offering something with his runs. He was helping out other players and interchanging with them. He was always a focal point as well in the box. And when he got the chances, he took them absolutely brilliantly. That first goal is just predatory. It's the kind of thing that Mo Salah, I think, surprised a lot of people with when he first arrived in English football, just how good he is in those kind of tap-in situations. And you can call him a tap-in merchant all you want, but there's a reason only a few players score that kind of goal on a regular basis, because only a few players read the game as well as Mohamed Salah does. And yeah, he's offside. Yeah, maybe the goal shouldn't stand. And of course, if he scores that next season when VAR has come in, it will get disallowed. But at the end of the day, he's probably been called, offside when he's been onside before. It's happened to Liverpool, of course, in the game against Arsenal. So it feels like for once the decisions are actually evening themselves out, whereas normally people tend to say that and you say actually no, because on average we end up on the wrong end of decisions. But finally they're evening themselves out. Liverpool get the rub of the green with that first decision, and once again it's Mo Salah scoring the first goal. I think it's something we haven't talked about enough this season, is just how often he gets the goal that gets Liverpool started. I mean, you can already name off the top of your head so many games where that's happened. You've got the Brighton game, you've got Huddersfield away, you've got Watford away as well. Difficult games where Liverpool sometimes haven't blown the opposition away, where Mohamed Salah has got the goal that has set us on our way to 3 points, and that is why he is so important for Liverpool. And like I said, some great predatory instincts to jump on that before anybody else does, and that's what shows how good he is at it, is because he gets to that ball before anybody else, and that just shows how good Mohamed Salah is at reading those kind of situations where he knows there is a potential tap-in available for him to pick up. And then the second goal is just pure persistence and ability on the ball as well. He's able to hold on to it, to take it, to use his pace and his skill to keep the ball at his feet and keep moving and create that goal scoring chance. But I think the one thing that stands out for everybody is the persistence, is the fact that he has Steve Cook raking down his Achilles heel as he goes through, and you can see the pain on his face. He looks in absolute agony. And one thing that I do really like is after he scores, there's been this whole stuff about whether or not he smiles after a celebration, and to be honest, I couldn't care less. As long as he's scoring goals for Liverpool, and I'm fairly sure he enjoys playing for us. We are, of course, top of the league. Why would he not want to be playing for Liverpool at the moment? But that look he gives Steve Cook after the goal, it is the dirtiest look I've ever seen. He is shooting absolute daggers across that pitch at Steve Cook, and rightly so, because the Bournemouth players potentially injured him just to try and take him down. Thankfully, Mo Salah comes out unscathed and of course gets the goal at the end of it. And it's also a sign of just how much Mo Salah backs himself as well, because most players would take the free kick there. They'd say, actually, this is a threatening position and I've got Nathan Ake in the way of me actually scoring a goal. But Mo Salah actually just believes in himself and thinks, you know what, I'm going to have a better chance here if I just keep moving with the ball and put the shot away. And of course, I'm sure that pain from that Steve Cook tackle will have been on his mind, and he will have wanted to prove him wrong as soon as possible. So that is another fantastic centre-forwards goal, the kind I'm sure we saw countless times from players like Fernando Torres and other famous Liverpool forwards in the past. And then the third goal is just sublime. It is ridiculous. It is Messi-esque. You know, there are only maybe 2 or 3 players on the planet who score that kind of goal, certainly score it on a regular basis, and Mohamed Salah is one of them. I actually, when I was sort of half watching the game when it took place, I missed the goal actually going in, so I saw the replay and I could see him sort of, again, muscle Steve Cook off the ball. Like I said, the poor fella had an absolute shocker. But then as he goes through on goal, I'm kind of wondering, is he going to go far post? Is he going to go inside post? Then he goes around the goalie and you think, oh, he's going to shoot now. Then he goes round, you think he'll shoot now. No, he doesn't. He takes another few touches. It's like that goal he scored against Porto, where you're desperate for him to shoot because you're just thinking, take the chance while it's there. But he, again, is so confident in himself. He has so much belief that he can make the chance as easy as possible. He just keeps on going until he essentially has an open goal. And like I said, it's the mark of a player who is absolutely world class. It's the mark of a world class centre forward, and also a player who is just a cut above every other player on the pitch as he was yesterday. So Mo Salah, a fantastic performance, a 10 out of 10 performance, a man of the match performance, no matter what he says in his post-match interview, giving it away to James Milner, which is of course a fantastic touch of class from him as well. And of course, the 3 goals that ultimately basically give Liverpool the 3 points. And then just the rest of the way he played as well, even without the goals, the runs he was making as well. People have doubted him in that kind of central role in the 4-2-3-1. And every game I see people saying, oh, I'm not sure about this, I prefer him out on the right. But every single game he plays in that role, he tends to score. I mean, if you took the figures, he's probably averaging, especially after yesterday and the hat-trick, about a goal a game in that number 9 role. So even though it may be affects Firmino slightly, and you could argue it upsets the balance, if it means we're scoring goals through Mo Salah, and if it means we're winning games emphatically, and if it means, crucially, we're top of the league, then I don't think it's really a problem. Just ignore the fact the TV's turned itself off. I'll sort that out later. But anyway, just a few more individual performances that I wanted to talk about. I think Naby Keita was certainly an interesting one because he has a lot of flash points where he looks absolutely fantastic, and he does show off why he's so important to Liverpool and why we, put in so much effort to try and bring him in the first place. But I do think in that left mid role, he's ever so slightly underused. And I think Klopp is still trying to work out where Naby Keita fits into this 4-2-3-1, because it is obviously a formation that's working so well at the moment. Like I said, it's getting the best out of Salah. It's getting the best out of Shaqiri. It gets the best out of a fantastic midfield pairing of Wijnaldum and Fabinho, which really, really seems to work at the moment. So I can see why he doesn't want to shift away from that formation at all. But it does, of course, beg the question of where exactly Naby Keita fits into all that. And he deputised perfectly well for Sadio Mane, and I do think he performed well. And like I said, there were some fantastic flashpoints. But I think in terms of how important he will be for Liverpool going forward, I still think we need to work out how to involve him in a central position, because that's why so many people were crying out for Naby Keita, because he offers what we've been missing since Oxlade-Chamberlain got injured. He's offered what we've been missing in terms of a player who just gets the ball and always thinks about getting forward, who always thinks about just taking it into his feet and dribbling as far as he can get before laying it off to one of the attackers. So I think there's still a little bit of work to be done there, and maybe we do tweak this formation to go back to something a bit similar to a 4-3-3 and think about rotating the front three a bit more, something like that. But once again, incredibly positive signs from Naby Keita, and hopefully we can actually work out where would be his best position, because once he plays in his best position, he will be absolute dynamite for Liverpool. But I think it's fair to say he has pretty much settled in now, and I think we will be seeing a lot more of Naby Keita coming into the second half of the Premier League campaign, and fingers crossed a Champions League campaign as well. Another player that I liked was Fabinho, simply because it was a pretty innocuous performance from him, and he just looks like he's settled in so well, given that there was all this stuff about easing him into the side, getting him used to the pace of the Premier League, and whether or not he's quite ready to play for Liverpool. I think Jurgen Klopp, again, as much as he was criticised all the way through the first few months of the season for not playing Fabinho and Keita more regularly, I think he's got this one spot on, because you look at the way Fabinho plays now, he looks like he's been playing in this Liverpool side for years. Like I said, some of his performances are just innocuous for the best possible reasons, and he forms such a formidable partnership with Gini Wijnaldum. Like I said, that is our best midfield option at the moment, is to play the two of them behind a 3 and then a 1 of Mohamed Salah. It's just so defensively assured. They don't look like they can be bypassed at all. They don't look like they can be overrun, and they're so good at also getting the best out of the players in front of them as well, and making sure that the ball is moved forward as quickly as possible. So a fantastic performance from Fabinho and a fantastic performance from Keita. It feels like those new signings are all starting to gel into the side now. I think actually that's all 4 of the summer signings that played, because you've got Shaqiri in there Alisson in there, Fabinho and Keita, and I'd say all 4 of them had some pretty good performances. All 4 of them I'd give maybe at least a 7 out of 10 to, maybe an 8 out of 10 if you discount Fabinho, simply because, like I said, his performance was just absolutely fine, which for someone in his position in a game away from home against Bournemouth is absolutely fine. Another player that I thought was admirable was James Milner in his 500th Premier League appearance. Mo Salah, like I said, maybe I wouldn't have given him the Man of the Match award, but I think it was a perfect mark of respect to a player who not only was playing his 500th game, but was playing yet another new position for Liverpool. And like I said earlier on in the video, I don't think he's necessarily a long-term option at right back, although I do think, you know, while we're trying to just rest Trent Alexander-Arnold, and certainly while we wait for Joe Gomez to come back from injury, although maybe he's an option ahead of Joe Gomez in that role, so we can keep Gomez in a centre-back role. But I do think he was pretty solid yesterday. Like I said, Shaqiri helped out when needed. He was never sort of bypassed or overrun or anything like that. So if we do need to rest Trent, or if we do get an injury crisis, it is good to know that James Milner will be an option there. And then finally, I thought Joel Matip was just solid, considering he was probably drafted in pretty late, because we would have rather have played Gomez and we would have rather have played Dejan Lovren in that game. He is, I'm pretty sure, the 4th choice centre-back at Liverpool at the moment. But I thought it was just an assured performance from him. He never looked like he struggled with Bournemouth, maybe targeting him as the weaker of the 2 centre-backs, although I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens if he's put under a bit more pressure, and that could of course happen should he come up against Napoli or Manchester United over the next week. I'd quite like to see whether Joel Matip can actually handle being put under the kind of pressure that will come with those games. But all things considered, some really good individual performances from in there. No player who really let the side down at all. I think everyone played at least a 7 out of 10 in that match. A fantastic away performance. Mo Salah, of course, the man of the match, now the joint top scorer in the Premier League with Aubameyang, already hitting double figures on 10, 4-0 win, top of the league. What more could you possibly ask for from this Liverpool side at the moment? They have been absolutely fantastic. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, hit that like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter. And I'll be back soon, potentially this afternoon, with the pre-match content for the game against Napoli. Until then, bye for now.